And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and along with me, my co-host, Mike Rasinski. Mike, how are we doing this evening?
Doing well. Love that the Cavs are 12-0.
Excellent. Yeah, hopefully they should win tonight. Should win tonight against a very depleted Philadelphia team. Would be nice to go to Lucky 13. Lucky 13,
Yep.
no, I guess. And Jacob, thank you for joining us once again for all your expert analysis and ridiculosity on the Browns. How are you this evening, sir?
I am good.
Okay. All right. As long as you're good. That's the key here. That's what we needed. It was nice last week, right, Mike?
You're talking nice weather-wise, or nice because the Browns didn't lose, or nice because...
You know what? All of the above. The weather was beautiful, but you know what really made it pleasant?
What?
Sunday afternoon, and no Browns.
Yeah,
No Browns ruined my day.
You could enjoy it. There's no stress. It was, a good fall day down in Virginia. Agreed. We went 0-0 this weekend, so that was good.
I know. Even though some people had us losing against the bye, I think we managed not to lose. In the grand scheme of things, I was pretty pleased. No, all in all, it was nice to have the bye, and I guess for us, and going into it as Browns fans, when we looked at the schedule, you're thinking they're going to be in pretty good shape at the bye week, right? You play 9 games, have a break, and you're in good shape there. You're thinking there's no way they can be doing that badly. We've had some easy games. It's going to be great. Yeah, not so much here. The season has certainly not turned out as we had hoped and expected to, or maybe it is what we should have expected because, well, it's the Browns.
And Deshaun.
Yes, indeed. And, certainly things are going to be interesting in the offseason and how things are approached going into next season, the next campaign for the Browns. This was such a great way to have the schedule broken up. You looked at it, you said, all right, this is excellent. I mean, to get the bye week 10, that's nice. Because last year, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
The early bye week.
Yeah, last year was in week 5. So, I mean, you think about that. Add in everything else they did last year, from the injuries, multiple injuries at quarterback, to tough schedule, to their bye week in week 5, and they still come out and make it to the playoffs with a great record. It's actually, you think about it, it's pretty amazing.
It is. It's very impressive what they were able to accomplish last year, and that's why it's all the more befuddling. What has happened this season, and you're wondering, like, okay, is Kevin Stefanski good? Is he not good? I don't know. Let's ask that question right now. I mean, because we're midway through, and as kind of Tony Grossi had indicated in the Monday press conference with Stefanski and such, he didn't seem like his normal positive self. And he was worried. He's like, I don't know for sure, but it's like he felt like that march of death. But what do you guys think about, just if we look at the overall situation, do we feel like Stefanski is the right guy?
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that this franchise, more than anything, just needs stability. I mean, ever since Haslam bought the team, what was it, like 2012, I think, right? Close to that. So
somewhere around there, around 2012, 2013, somewhere in that vicinity.
So we're like 10 to 12 years into his regime, and no coach had lasted more than 2 years, I want to say. Did anybody get more than that before Kevin?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
I believe they were all, you had the Pettine regime. You had 1 year of Rob Chudzinski. You had 2+ years of Hugh Jackson. Jackson. Yeah, let me get that right. I don't want to say that wrong there. And now Kevin Stefanski. And this is as noted.
Oh, don't forget the 1 year of Freddie Kitchens.
Oh, how could I forget that disaster?
Baker cooking in the kitchens.
this is the first tandem to get a contract extension.
Yes.
Under Haslam, he and Barry. And I have more faith in Stefanski than I do Barry, to be quite honest. But I know some fans are sour on Stefanski. Jacob, any thoughts on Stefanski? Do you think he is the right person to lead us? Is it worth it to keep him just for the sake of stability?
I mean, I think he's worth more than just stability. I think he's been able to run a functional offense with not so good pieces. This year it's just not been good trying to change the offense to a Ken Dorsey offense rather than a Kevin Stefanski offense, which I think really threw a wrench into things. And I think he can make a solid team out of very little. And
I
I
mean,
think that's good.
yeah, I totally agree. And think about this. I think like this is more on the Haslams. They're more about the quick fix than actually investing in some type of strategy, unless that strategy is going 1-31 and trying to build through the draft. Because they've shown that they can't stick with a coach and a GM. They try to get a quick fix with Deshaun Watson by mortgaging the future, and this is where we're left with. We need to invest and let like Kevin work through some struggles. He is a 2-time coach of the year for a reason. So let's get some stability in there. Let him go through a bad year, learn from it, grow from it, and continue on. It's almost like the Cavs. They didn't, do much last year in terms of getting extra players. It's the same lineup, but look how different they are. You can say some of it's because of Atkinson, but you can also say some of it's because they learned from last year and grew together. Why can't the Browns be the same way? You don't have to make changes. Let them learn and grow together. At least, some parts of it, like the coaching staff.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that they actually didn't do this year. They tore down the whole offensive staff. And for what? That question is one that I would love to hear the answer to. And so I think that you're right. I'm with you guys. I think Stefanski has shown he is a very, very good coach, a very capable coach. I'm not sure what everything has just gone sideways this season so far, and I'm certainly hopeful that that he does, that the team can play competitively the remainder of the schedule, and whatever it is, I just hope that they manage to move in the right direction here. I still, however, as we have discussed multiple weeks, I have my questions about Andrew Berry and his ability to do draft picks. And okay, all right, that's a bit extreme. They'll never ever learn. All right, okay, we're getting a little harsh here. Okay, so let's focus here on what's ahead for the Clowns this week. We go down to New Orleans. New Orleans, hey, they're pretty dysfunctional. What's crazy is for the longest time, they were the Aints. They were the Aints. And then they finally, got their run with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. They finally made their run and got a Super Bowl and were pretty competitive there for a number of years. But then Sean Payton goes and Drew Brees retires, and it is not a pretty situation there. They win the first 2 games of the season, and you're thinking, oh boy, I mean, they laid 40 points in plus points each of their first 2 games, lost 7 in a row. And Dennis Allen, adios, amigo. He is gonzo. I mean, it's crazy how things turned so quickly for them this season and fell apart. Not that Dennis Allen is God's gift to coaching, but sheesh. I don't even know what to really make of the situation in New Orleans either. I don't know if it's because of injuries. I don't know if it's because of the coach, but Dennis Allen gets fired. They did get the coach's bump last week. Yeah, I knew that was coming. The interim coach bump from Coach Rizzy there. And Derek Carr comes back from injury. So now Derek Carr, he took some criticism. If you saw Michael Thomas, former Ohio State Buckeye, he laid into him and gave some harsh criticism because Chris Olave, a fellow former Ohio State Buckeye, gets his second concussion of the season. And I mean, it doesn't speak. I'm not sure what to read into that, because as far as I can tell, you tell me, guys, would you take these stats? 7 games, 1,494 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Would you guys take that right now?
Yeah, I mean, look at your
Over
talking
what we
to.
got.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, in as much as Derek Carr is not the greatest quarterback, he's certainly can be above average, and you can get him to make some good plays. I don't know what's going on down there. Obviously, they've got a lot of injuries. They are without Olave. They are also without Rashid Shaheed. So like their 2 best wide receivers are out. They're relying simply on Alvin Kamara is essentially their offense. It's kind of crazy like that. So that's what you kind of have out of New Orleans, and they are leading the league, or they have a very high in the league in the number of interceptions on the defense. So that's something that we have to worry about, because which Jameis Winston will we get? What are you guys betting on? Are we going to get famous Jameis or Lamus Jameis? I don't know what to call him. I mean, he goes for 3 tutties and no interceptions against the Ravens by the grace of Jim Donovan looking down and shining light in people's eyes. And then against the Chargers, he looks like the other Jameis, 1 touchdown and garbage time and 3 picks. What do you guys think we might be able to do against the Saints and our former friend and former defensive coordinator, Joe Woods? Guys, any thoughts here on what we may or may not be able to accomplish against the Saints this week?
Well, I'm hoping we don't accomplish much, because the Saints did us a huge favor and won last week, so they have 3 wins now. We're still sitting at 2 wins. Let's not screw up that top 5 draft pick by beating the Saints and moving down in the draft and letting them jump us. So I'm hoping we don't do much. Yeah, I'd be okay with another like 3-pick day. Just
I don't know. Maybe you get a 2-2.
Yeah, well, go outside and enjoy your Sunday this coming week too. You don't have to watch the game.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't know, Jacob. So what do you think? Which Jameis are we going to see against the Saints, given that we've had the bye week, a chance to maybe get a little healthy, a chance for the coaches to reevaluate what has worked, what hasn't worked, and maybe implement some things? I don't have offhand here Stefanski's record after the bye week, but he when he has time to prepare, generally that's a good sign. Do you expect the Browns to, if nothing else, at least look a little bit more cohesive?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be closer to a Ravens Jameis than to a Chargers Jameis, but I think it's just gonna be a regular Jameis game. No 3 touchdowns or 3 picks, just maybe a couple touchdowns, maybe a pick or 2. But
Yeah,
you
do you
know,
think he'll defy Kevin Stefanski, and instead of being in victory formation, hand it off for a guy at a touchdown, with the game already over, and then say it was a team decision? Does it?
what's a victory formation?
Oh yes. Oh man, that was good.
Well said.
That was quick, buddy. Yeah, we don't know about that very often, do we? We're holding off for dear life in most of these games. I mean, it's been one of those years, and I honestly, I think we're all kind of tired. I've got Browns fatigue. Does anybody else here? Raise your hand. Do you have Browns fatigue? Jacob, you're not tired of it yet. You're young. You haven't seen the worst of it. So the big thing that kind of happened, we had the bye week, and normally I will look at all the ridiculous things that Kevin Stefanski has to say on a Wednesday, and we'll dive into it and we'll rip it to shreds. We'll tear it down, tear it limb from limb. The biggest thing that happened this week was Jed Wills just at his locker talking to the media, and they're talking to him about, oh, well, you were at left tackle against the Bengals, then you didn't play, or Yeah, you didn't play against the Ravens, and then you're not the starter against the Chargers. Blah. They go into this routine, and he says what had to be one of the biggest foot in mouth things I've seen in a long time. Did you guys check this out? Because this was a real classic foot and mouth thing here. Jed Wills, Mike, are you familiar with what Mr. Wills said?
Yes, I am. Sadly,
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. Well, for those of you who are living under a rock and may not have seen this, let's take a look here and hear what Mr. Wills had to say, because my friends, again, it's just mind boggling what this guy said. Hopefully this will work right, but let's give it a go, as this will tie into Jacob's Charlie Brown Award for the week. And so let's play here. So
I did it myself. I made a business decision not to play after the Bengals game, going into that Ravens game, because I was injured. And then the next week is when I received the news. So, I mean, you think that they felt it? But we were going up on the ball, and everybody was getting set. So I was like, well, I'll stay in if it hurts later, and I got to come out. That is what it is. But I ended up finishing the game. The next day I got some treatment and stuff, and my knee was really swollen. I couldn't really bend it, so played out the week how it went. I wasn't ready for game time, so I didn't end up playing.
The same knee.
Yeah, no, it's not my decision, so I just kind of got to play the role that I have, you know.
So I mean that right there, and I'm gonna stop that screen share because we don't need any of that. We ain't got time for that. I don't know what that all is, but anyway, I mean he made a business decision, and for that, Jacob, I know that you were going to go a little bit early here, but talk to us about. I don't even know if it needs explanation, but talk to us about your thoughts on Jed Will's commentary there.
I think he made a business decision not to play against the Ravens, and the Browns and Stefanski made a business decision to sit him on the bench.
Good grief.
That I mean, how in the world is this guy? Are you kidding me? Did he really say it was a business decision? Did they not? Did they not teach these guys anything about speaking to the media? I know that Stefanski didn't, at least in public, call him out over it, and in fact, kind of defended him. And other than to say it was a poor choice of words. And that's not what he meant, because there's people, they talked about it in Las Vegas earlier in the season. Antonio Pierce is talking about the guys, well, they made business decisions. It wasn't as much of a fiasco as that, but for a guy who stands there and holds his hands up as his quarterback is getting crushed because he, is like, huh? I missed the block. Somebody else missed the block. I don't have much sympathy for him, guys.
Yeah, what's do you remember, what is it, the Ron Burgundy quote? When in Rome, I don't really know what that means. I'm not sure Jed knows what business decision means, like what that term means. I think he's just trying to say something. He used the wrong term, and it turned out to look very badly for him. So yeah.
Yeah, that was absolutely horrific for him to say that, and it's just gone from bad to worse for him. And I understand what he's saying about, though, that he did play on a hurt ankle during his rookie season, and he fought through some stuff. I just think that I don't know if it's the injury from last year, if he's just given up. I just can't figure out what his deal is, and clearly the Browns weren't impressed with him because they had picked up his like 5th year option, but or what, this is his last year. They didn't give him an extension. The writing was on the wall, and he just kind of sealed the deal, unless he were to be like, okay, I'll come back for the league minimum.
Yeah, in all honesty, picking up the 5th year option was probably the smart thing to do, because you can get Well, they were hoping you could get a first round talent pretty cheaply, but that experiment is turning out to fail, just like the Watson one. But they have other options at
Right.
at tackle, which is nice. I mean, you have the DeJuan Jones that turns out he's working. You have Conklin. Unfortunately, all three were injured at some point this year, so it didn't really work. But theoretically, you should have three players at two positions. So he could just be the backup, the expendable piece, which hopefully that's kind of what he is now, just a highly paid backup who will be gone next year.
Yeah, and since he's not super expensive, relatively speaking, and I think that he still could be. He needs to be ready, and he needs to show some mental toughness and be able to step in. Jones has certainly stepped in and done a pretty decent job. Last year, mostly at right tackle. This year, he wasn't looking great. He came into the season apparently out of shape, and I think that after kind of getting his butt sat down, from what I've heard, he's lost a little bit of weight and he took it personally. And he's come back and he's done pretty solid at left tackle, considering that he hadn't played that in what did we say? I don't even remember if it was like high school or something ridiculous. He hadn't played left tackle in forever is the bottom line, if at all. So I was pretty pleased with that. So yeah, that's pretty much the most exciting thing that happened all of this week. And shouldn't we say that that's like a blessing, just as a blessing that that's the most exciting thing that happened all week?
Yeah, I mean, with the Cavs playing so well and there's no baseball, it actually was a pleasant week. There wasn't any like negative news, right?
Not too much, although the city, they need to stop. They keep putting out things. Apparently, some study came out and they're like, they got a study done. The city paid for a study that suggests that like Berea is not, or Brook Park is not viable, blah, blah. When you start to look at these things, you say, who paid for the study and what were the findings? That kind of speaks volumes there. But that's crazy town, nevertheless here. You mentioned it, Mike, that you don't want to screw up the draft position. The Browns are amongst a number of teams with just 2 victories, and certainly they have an opportunity here to be toward the top of the draft board. We don't play. You mentioned last week. The Panthers got a big win. That none of us called that one, but that was a big win over the Giants. Boy, do they stink. What are they going to do with Daniel Jones? The Saints get a win. That was huge. And the Dolphins with the kind of surprise victory. Now, obviously, having a healthy Tua makes a big difference for them. But I mean, just one of those things we don't want to fudge that up. And with that in mind, Jacob, our mock draft expert here, has done some research and come up with a mock draft for this week. Let's go to Jacob's mock draft. All right. So, Jacob, without further ado, we'll hand it over to you. And in this mock draft, it's got the Browns sitting at 4 right now.
Yep.
And you see the board playing out. Travis Hunter to the Jags, because they're hoping that Lawrence is going to be able to get back to what he was. Then the Giants are swinging big and going after Shedeur Sanders, because as we just mentioned, clearly the Daniel Jones experiment, that's just as bad as many of the things the Browns have done. As you mentioned many weeks ago, Mike, all these teams that overpaid for their quarterbacks are not feeling the same dividends. Getting back the same dividends. The Titans are going to move on in this mock draft from the Will Levis experiment. I mean, he's still on a rookie deal, but they're going to get Cam Ward. So at that point, 2 top quarterbacks are off the board. And now we go to the number 4 pick. And we have with With the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select
Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama.
All right, so at that point, Jacob, you see Shador and Cam Ward off the board. Of the other quarterbacks that were still available, we see that Garrett Nussmeier in this draft goes immediately after Milroe. And then the other quarterbacks we've talked about are Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck.
Quinn Ewers went to the Rams, and then Beck went to the Bills in this mock draft.
Yeah, and I'm going through, and you and I even talked that we were kind of surprised about the Carson Beck move, but Quinn Ewers to the Rams, I could see that. I could see that. They need to replace. They need to think about Stafford's successor. But when you started looking at it, Jacob, and you were thinking Jalen Milroe, and you've had Jalen Milroe in a few of your mock drafts. Do you think that he can fit into the scheme here, or that a scheme can be built around him, and that he's got the tools to be successful in the NFL?
He definitely has the tools to be successful. He's a more mobile quarterback, like the NFL has been very slowly shifting to over the past few years, starting with, I think, Cam Newton. And so Jalen Milroe, he's a pretty good passer. He definitely has great potential there. But I think what gives him a boost in this class is his rushing ability. And I think that a scheme can be built around Milroe, so he could do something.
Yeah, he can do something. Well, do you think that actually? All right, let me throw this out there, guys. Let's say the Browns were to draft Jalen Milroe, right? And he is a mobile type quarterback. Would he fit? Do you think he would fit into a scheme by any chance that maybe would involve more Dorsey-esque philosophies?
I mean, Josh Allen has some mobility, not as much. When you think of Allen, you think of his arm, but he's not shy to run a bit.
No, he's certainly not. He takes the hits, and that was one of the that was certainly something that was a knock on how he played in the system under Dorsey in Buffalo. I don't know, Mike. What do you think? I mean, for as much or as little as you might have seen of Jalen Milroe, or any of the quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe specifically, do you think that Ken Dorsey could build a system for him? Do you think he has, coming from Alabama, he can make the jump?
Yeah, I would hope so. So I haven't watched a lot or really any of Jalen Milroe, so I don't know about him specifically, but I would hope that Dorsey could build an offense around whichever quarterback we end up drafting too, because I would hope that our coach isn't so one-dimensional that we would have to draft the perfect quarterback to build the offense around. So if we get a running quarterback, then yeah, he should be able to use those attributes and build a system around him. If we have a pocket passer, then you should be smart enough to figure out how to build an offense around him too. So it's more, I think, about how versatile Dorsey is and can adapt to the quarterbacks than the other way around. Now, the question I do have, Jacob, since you've been following this more than I have, so in this draft, he is the third quarterback taken. If he's gone, say we draft number 7 or 8, and those 3 quarterbacks are gone, do we still go quarterback, or when do we stop picking quarterback? Is it quarterback or bust in this draft, and we just go whichever one's available at wherever we draft? Or would you go no further down than Jalen Milroe and then go something else?
So I think if Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, and Shador Sanders are all off the board by the time it reaches your pick, I think you look somewhere else and wait till the second round to get, I think, one of my I think a sleeper pick who could be available there early in the second round is Drew Aller. I think he could be waiting there for you in the second round, and if you can't get one of the top quarterbacks, I think you get something to help the team that's like an elite player at their position in the draft.
Right. And with that in mind, and hopefully factors that they will not be reaching for a quarterback. They may in the top of the draft. That's what these teams are kind of stuck with, because clearly if they stink this badly, they're there partially or mostly because they have no quarterback. So we move on to the second round, and we have now reached the 35th pick. On the clock, the Cleveland Browns at pick number 35. And with the 35th pick, the Cleveland Browns select
Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss.
Okay, so a defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I don't know much about him. Just what do you have in general on him? Is he a really good run stuffer? What are his best attributes?
So Walter Nolan, he's 6'3", 305 pounds, and he's on he's on track to have his best season in college so far. His previous 2 years were with Texas A&M, so this is his first year at Ole Miss. Uh, Throughout the seasons, he had 31 total tackles. That's 16 solo and 15 assists. He's gotten 3 sacks, two fumble recoveries, and then 1 pass defended. All of that in 10 games. And I think he could be a nice counter in the middle to Mike Hall. I think Mike Hall, he's definitely he's able to get after the quarterback. Well, I think Nolan, he can get to the quarterback, but I think he's best in the run.
Okay, so basically, if I gather what you're saying here, we've got a lot of old guys, and we've talked about this. A lot of old guys in
Yes.
the middle of the D line that we've used to fill in the Shelby Harrises, the Mo Hurst,
Mhm.
Dalvin Tomlinson, all those guys. They're just here to kind of fill in the gap.
Yeah,
Um,
and for the situation we thought we were in, which was Super Bowl, like maybe Super Bowl contender, that's fine, but that's clearly not where we're at as of right now, and we need to develop a quarterback. So now you need to start getting much younger at a lot of key positions. One of them I think is D tackle.
All right, fair enough. Well, we shall see, and we will look forward to your further NFL drafts as we continue along on the season. And so we are going to close up our NFL segment here, Brown segment, and let's go to our picks. Let's take a look here at the Week 10 review, see how we all did here. It wasn't a great week for any of us. Look at this. We all had the same. And New York pooped the bed. Chicago, wow, that's not a good situation there. I don't know. Do you think Eberflus is going to make it out of this year?
He's gonna make it to the end of the year. I think that's what's gonna happen.
And they're going
to what a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. He stinks, man, and he's killing Caleb Williams. You got people are ticked off out there because he's in at the end of the game and is getting crushed. So that's no bueno. The Ravens with that amazing Thursday night victory over the Bengals, and the Bills with a solid victory of their own. Moving on, well, we were doing pretty well. At least I was.
Yeah, who would have you picked the Saints bump, the coaching bump. So good on you for that. You had that right.
I listened to enough talk radio that I'm like, okay, they must know what they're talking about. I think they know what they're talking about. They've seen it more, as much as I've seen it, but they've actually analyzed it. And I mean, yeah.
I mean, I've heard of it, and and like when you mention it, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. I see how some teams they get just a little bump for maybe 1 or 2 games
Right.
there.
Right. And certainly getting Derek Carr back helped a lot.
Yeah.
That definitely helps a little bit. And I mean, it wasn't a high scoring affair, but they did what they needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco goes down to Tampa, and yay. I mean, Baker Mayfield he played the a lot of the adjectives that we in Cleveland came to know: moxie, gutsy. I mean, the play where he held off Nick Bosa on a 4th down to keep their drive alive and the game possibility, he's able to hold him off and still throw a completion to keep the drive going, and they eventually tie the game at 20. I mean, Jacob, I turned the game off. I was like, oh, I'm done. I don't know. Whatever happens here. I think I went to watch some other TV. I think I was watching Tulsa King. Good show. If anyone's seen it on Paramount Plus. Good show. But they lose. They end up giving up the game-winning field goal to San Fran and lose 23-20. But it's just crazy how different circumstances and situations can make players look better or worse, as the case may be here. I don't know. And I agree. Super Bowl. Apparently, Jacob, this is to your comment. I wish we could just win a game. Me too. Me too. Oh boy. So okay, moving on. Next set here. What? Come on, Commanders. Really?
I know. Why? How can the Steelers just be good every year? I don't get it.
I think this year's different. I think they could actually make a run in the playoff. I know, I'm saying it, but I think it's possible with actually good, above competent quarterback play in the backfield with both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I think Russell's slightly better because he can throw the ball to George Pickens.
So what was the difference between Russell in Denver and Russell in Pittsburgh? How did they resurrect him after the?
I think Russ just needed to sit on the bench for a bit from the end of the Denver season to beginning of the Steelers season. I think that time on the bench was good for him.
So why can't the Browns do that?
I mean, okay, now Mike, we brought in a broken down Joe Flacco. He looked pretty good.
Yeah, and then we get rid of him.
Well, but we see him run his course. And we don't know what's left of Russell Wilson. He did not look great even I don't think in training camp. And then he has an injury. He got too big for his britches when he went to Denver and got way too much leverage and was with a terrible coach. And then they bring in Sean Payton, and it was just a bad circumstances and bad situation all around there. And it was good for him to get a change of scenery. The things that have been consistent in Pittsburgh, which we have to envy as Cleveland fans, is they've got the consistency. They have the stability. The defense has always been good, and they figured out, as much as their fans, they complain about Mike Tomlin all the time, and they're a bunch of spoiled brats, to be quite frank. I'll take 10 wins a season, maybe, and once in a decade, have a chance at a Super Bowl. Would you take 10 wins a season and maybe 1 out of 10, you get one out of those 10 seasons, you're in the Super Bowl?
I would love that.
Exactly. It's crazy. So that's it, Mike, in my opinion. It's consistency.
At least they're still stuck with the Pirates.
Yes. There you go. I love it. Good point there. All right, moving on. The last window, I did not fare so well in this. You guys.
Well, they look good in the first half. I thought you had that one, and then the Lions come back, from the dead and get that win. That was impressive, actually.
If only football was played in 3 quarters.
All right, smart guy. All right, I've heard enough of you. Smack talk. I don't need that. No, the Texans. I still think they're going to be all right, but the Lions are playing very well, and they've got a lot of potential ahead of them. I know our buddy Jason Heron is loving life there, and hopefully they don't screw it up this year. Because boy, I mean, whatever it was last year to be that close, and you just hope that they don't suffer the same type of fate that the Browns of the mid 80s had, where you get so close and then you don't make it and then you fall off the cliff. I mean, it didn't happen all at once for the Browns, but obviously we have seen that story play out. All right, so let's take a look at the results of our Week 10 picks. You got the two of you going 8-6. I went 9-5, and I'm cruising here right now, but I don't know. There's still a lot of football left to be played with the 10-game advantage here in picks. What are you guys going to do to come back? Do we have are we going to have a trophy, or will I just get a pat on the back?
Hey, you're getting a bit big for your britches there. There's still an entire half of the season left.
All right, okay. Listen to this trash talk I deal with, Mike. Listen to this trash talk in my own home. How disrespectful.
I love it. Good job, Jacob. Keep it up.
All right, moving on to this week's picks. Let's take a look at what we've got for week 11. So, in the early games, Commanders, Eagles, Packers, Bears, the Jags and Lions, the Vikings, and the Titans. And look at this. Okay, Jake, we're all square except for the Philly and the Commanders. Jacob, you think the Commanders are going to go on the road and take down the Eagles? What makes you confident in that?
I think they can. I think the Eagles, they've been playing some okay opponents in their win streak. I think that's being generous because they played who they played. They played the Browns. They played. I know they
just
played.
said it. We don't need to hear anymore. They played the Browns. That's it.
They played Dallas last week, and then they beat the Giants as well. So
Carolina, I think, was in there.
Oh wait, so the Browns, Carolina, the Giants, and the Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah, so I think.
Boy, yeah, you're right.
It's the level of competition. Commanders in their losses have been competitive with good opponents. The Eagles, they've been beating up on some not good teams.
Bottom dwellers, the trash.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and we've all gone with the Packers, Lions, and Vikings. So Jacob, a chance to make up ground if the Commanders should win. Next up, the next slate, Raiders, Dolphins, Rams, Patriots, Browns, Saints, Colts, and Jets. So let's see here. So, oh boy, what do we got here? Mike, you and I guess we have to explain why we chose the Browns.
Yeah, well, I think that they're going to break our hearts again and actually beat the Saints. And like I said, screw up our draft position. So I'm picking the Browns only because it's going to screw us in the long run.
I like the negativity. That's the way I'm going. No, as we discussed, I think that coming off of a bye week, they will have had an opportunity to kind of really take a look at some things, and maybe they actually used it wisely and have some things in place that are going to work. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to these guys. However, if they lose, I won't be upset. It'll just be beautiful. It's not going to make me upset on a Sunday evening like it would if they were actually competitive and such. And I guess that I'm going to have to be the person to explain my ridiculous pick of the Jets here. Although
I also have to explain my pick.
Okay, well, I'll go first here. I chose the Jets because I just feel like, well, the Colts are going back to Anthony Richardson. And they don't know what they're doing there. And you really have to start questioning who's in charge. They were going with Flacco. Now they're going back to Richardson. You had Richardson saying, I'm tired. I need you to take me out of the game, coach. I'm tired. I need a breather. That's crazy. And I just thought that the Jets might be able to pull out a victory here just because the Colts aren't that good, especially with Anthony Richardson. How about you, Jacob? Tell us your.
So I asked my friend what would win, a horse or a jet, and he said a horse. So I chose the Colts. That's my pick. Thank you very much.
Well, what friend picks a horse over a jet? First of all,
I don't know.
What were their skills? Did one of them have good bow staff skills? All right, moving on. All right, we got Ravens and Steelers, which should be a great game. The Falcons and the Broncos, Seahawks, Niners, Chiefs, and Bills. Let's see where we all went. And let's see. All right, Mike, you went Steelers. taking out the Ravens. What what brought you to that decision?
It's just their year this year. Like on paper, they shouldn't be winning any game, and yet here they are. What are they? 7-3, I think. Off the top of my head, 7-2, 7-3.
I believe they're 7-2.
Yeah, so it's just their year. They have no business beating the Ravens at all, but they're at home, and yeah, they're just gonna pull it out because they're probably gonna win the Super Bowl this year.
Oh,
just to rub it in their faces.
No, Mike, no. We can't have that.
Well, if it's not them, it'll be the Ravens.
Oh, Mike. Oh, I'm in pain right now here.
It's one of those. I mean, you think I should be feeling better. We just talked about how there's no negativity this week. We had a bye week. What an enjoyable Sunday. And for some reason, I'm still feeling negative about the Browns.
Well, yeah, that's just the way it is. All right. You also went with the Falcons gonna get a road win at Mile High. You feel like they're gonna bounce back?
I do, and I still feel like the Broncos are overrated. Like they're just gonna collapse in the second half of the season.
I agree they're overrated, but certainly they are getting the most out of what they've got there. We all went San Francisco. Jacob, you decided to stick with the Chiefs playing in Buffalo. What makes you believe they are going to continue their undefeated season?
I think it's definitely going to be a close game. Going to be another great chapter in the Mahomes versus Allen series. And I think the Chiefs are going to get some Chiefs BS-ery, as always, and they're going to pull out a win.
All right. Yep. I guess Tyler Bass is going to have to miss another field goal. The jet stream will pick up. It'll be the vortex or something. It'll move the ball. I hear you. All right. I believe we're on the last set of games here. We've got the Bengals at the Chargers and the Texans at the Cowboys. And let's see. I am the odd man out here. I went with the Chargers. Well, quite frankly, I just feel that their defense is pretty good. It's actually very good. And I think they can get to Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, when he's under pressure and getting crushed all the time, it's going to make it awfully hard to do much against a very good Chargers defense. I would be surprised, or maybe I wouldn't be, if they go cross country and beat the Chargers. I think they are much better now, to be quite frank, under Harbaugh, even though I don't like him. So there's that goes. So that is all for our NFL picks for the week. So Jacob, we are going to move on to the Cavs, and if you'd like to depart, you may. We are going to talk about a good team in town as we watch them try and struggle here against the depleted Philadelphia 76ers team.
Well, I'll head out. Loved being on the show, as always.
All right, sir. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your insights, and we will catch you next time. All right, Mike. So let's talk about a real team.
Yes, thankfully.
I know. Sorry, that went longer than I wanted. I really, really, really can't wait till the Brown season is over. It would be good. I'm watching the score here tonight, Mike. The Cavs are undefeated, 12-0. And I think I saw a stat. There's only been about 5 teams that have ever started 13-0. What in the world is going on with this Cavs team that they have been able to do this? I mean, they've had the game last Friday. They beat the tar out of Golden State. And then they've had other games where they are fighting.
Like this one right now that we're watching live. They're down 59-57 now in the third quarter to a Philly team that's without 3 of their all-stars.
Yeah, you have no Embiid, no Paul George, no Tyrese Maxey. They're on the second night of a back-to-back, yet somehow we're not beating them. Why? Why?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we can only get so frustrated because they are 12-0. They've been able to win big, like the Warriors game where they scored 84 points in the first half, and the Warriors came in at 7-1, like a good, legit team.
Boston, they had just beaten Boston.
And then we have games where we're down, I think, 16 in the second half, and we still come back and win. Like they find a way to win, and I think that's been the most exciting part. Is I just saw the stat on this broadcast that I have it on my computer over here. I think it's So they've played 12 games. I want to say it's 6 to 7 games. They've been down by double digits and have come back to win, which has been pretty impressive, actually. So it just shows resiliency and heart and that they just don't give up. So, I mean, that goes to the question I had is like, what has been the most impressive part of this season? I think you're going to ask that question too.
Yeah, no, I think we're both looking at it because as I was saying, I've run out of the adjectives.
Yeah.
To the superlatives and the adjectives to really just describe what has gone on here. And you and I and other people have said this. So we're not alone in this. It's kind of like what we experienced with the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
We maybe didn't this team, I mean, as constructed with this roster, we had high, probably the ceiling we thought was pretty high as opposed to like where the Guardians were at the beginning of their season, but just the way they're doing it. And it's an exciting and fun team, a team you can actually love. And so look at it. 1 week we're getting look at the player of the week. You noted here correctly, Donovan Mitchell was named the player of the week last week or the week before. And then Darius Garland gets it. I mean, how great is that to have a backcourt get back-to-back weeks of player of the week?
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, I think the play of Darius Garland has been impressive. That's one of the keys to why they've been so good. I would say the other key is the bench play too. Like they put in the second unit and they just blow out the other team's second unit all the time. And our second unit has even been able to compete with the first unit of other teams as well. Granted, we haven't been playing all of the best teams, but still, that's very encouraging, and it's allowed the starters to rest. Like Mitchell is averaging 30 minutes a game, which is like 4 minutes lower than his NBA average. That's going to play dividends later in the season. And then I'll say the third thing I've noticed too. So we said Garland, the bench, and then Mobley too. Just like his all around game has improved from his low post scoring to his defense has always been there, but it's gotten even better this year. So those three things have really, I think, contributed to this start. And the other thing to note too is the Cavs have played the most amount of games this season in NBA too. They played 12. Some other teams have only played 9. And so they're still rattling them off.
Exactly. I mean, Indiana, so it's hard to remember. Do you remember back in the day, Mike, that you actually knew what division the Cavs were in? I don't even know anymore. All I think about is the overall picture of the Eastern Conference. And, I look at the standings in the Central. And Indiana is in second place at 5-5. We've got a 6-game advantage over Indiana. I mean, that's crazy. And just overall, the standings in the NBA in the Eastern Conference, if I'm recollecting as of like last week, it was only the Cavs and the Celtics, and it still is going into tonight's action. Cavs and Celtics are the only two teams above 500 in the Eastern Conference. Orlando is struggling because they have an injury to Paolo Banchero. That's huge. The Knicks are kind of finding their way with new pieces and parts. The Pacers, I'm not sure what's going on, but I think they might be kind of meh. They had a heck of a run last year, and Halliburton's a heck of a player, but it's kind of crazy when you look at it. So, you talked about the bench. They were losing in Chicago. The bench comes in. They put them in the third quarter, and they were down by 9. They couldn't hit a shot. They go on a 9-0 run. They ended the third quarter on a 19-7 run with LeVert scoring 7 of those points. I mean, the bench was fantastic. And in that game, Niang, who looks so much better this year, he slimmed down. It's amazing how much better he looks. Ty Jerome has been such a key component that we've talked about multiple times. And then Karis LeVert. They all had 12 points, 36 points from those 3 guys off the bench. That's just fantastic. And right now, we don't even have Max Strus, and certainly is going to help. I mean, tonight they started Okoro as opposed to Dean Wade, and that's fine. But the one thing I do notice, and I've heard this, so again, I kind of stealing this from other folks and their observations, but it's true. Atkinson is not afraid to use different players and really go down deep into the bench. Whereas we didn't see that so much in years past with JB, and it seemed like he had his guys and he stuck with it. And no matter how it was going, he wasn't going to veer from that. And that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he usually played like an 8-man rotation most nights too. We are getting 10, 11 guys in every night, and they are getting more than just the token like 2 minutes, go in, play some scrub time. They're getting legit minutes. And part of it's because they've been playing so well too. I mean, you mentioned it, and I should have mentioned this too. It's like the play of Ty of Jerome. Ty Jerome has been amazing how he's been playing. And it's not just been the scoring, it's been like the steals, it's been the defense, it's just been leading the offense as the backup point guard. Who was the I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart here. The point guard we had, the veteran who got injured, you know,
Well, it could be this.
There we go.
Is it
there
Ricky
we go.
Rubio?
That's that. Yes. He is like a younger, better version of Ricky Rubio, because we saw how good they were when Rubio, you know, started that
Exactly.
was it 3 or 4 years ago, then got hurt, and how bad they struggled. This is like the better version of that.
Yes, absolutely. He's got a little bit of Rubio seemingly in him. He's got some Dellavedova in him. He's just a gutsy ball player, and that's fantastic. We desperately needed that on this team, and he provides so much off the bench. Such a good spark. Okay, so here's the question. Right now, what do we got? We're up approximately 69, 64.
Yep.
All right, let's say the Cavs win tonight and move to 13-0. If we take a look at the schedule, Mike, I don't know if you have that pulled up anywhere nearby, but let's run through this and see how far do you think they can get. Their next game is at home, and that is on Friday night. They take on the Bulls. The Bulls, for whatever reason, are a very tricky matchup for us. I don't understand it, but for some reason, they play well against us. Do you think they can get past the Bulls and move to 14-0?
Well, it's at home too. If anybody cares, it's part of the NBA Cup, so we'll have a cool court to look at. But yeah, I don't see why they couldn't. They did it on the road 2 nights ago.
Okay, so let's say so you think that would make it 14. Then you'd go up against the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets, they're not so good this season. Would you give them a fairly good percentage chance to beat the Hornets at home?
Sure. Yep. I would say they are the odds-on favorite to win that game.
Okay, so now we're 15-0. Then they have to travel to Boston. 7:00 tip time from the Turd Dog Garden, the TD Garden, whatever they want to call it, on TNT. Do you give that? Is that where you go? Maybe that's where the run stops.
Well, I mean, that's the most logical thing to think of, is when you play the defending champs. They're playing good ball. They're 9-3 this year, so then they've been a tough matchup for us in the past. That being said, we came back from 20 points in the fourth quarter last year to beat them, so they're beatable. So like, I'm trying to think. It's in Boston. If what are the Vegas odds on that one? Come like Tuesday morning when you wake up, probably the odds are going to be on Boston to win that game.
Right.
But I'm guessing it's going to be like 51%, 49%, something like that. It's not going to be the 60-40 that we're used to seeing. So yeah, they probably are the favorites to win that game. Boston is, but there's no reason that the run can stop there. Like, I think we have just as good a shot to win that.
All right, so if you get past Boston there, you're at now 14, 15, 16 would be Boston. Then you play New Orleans at home. We already beat New Orleans in New Orleans. I'm pretty sure that's another win. Make that 17.
Okay.
Fair to say. Then they play Toronto at home. We beat Toronto in the opener. I'm not concerned with them. I'm really not. Okay, so now we're 18. Am I counting right? We're at 18. Then you got a home and home with Atlanta. They could legitimately get through November at 20-0.
Do you realize what you just did though? You have jinxed them, and they're going to lose tonight by running.
All right, Mike, that's enough of you. I don't need this nonsense. Come on now.
You better find some wood to knock on right now.
I think this is like it's a pressed wood. Does that count?
It counts. It counts.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you. Now it's kind of crazy, and whatever it is, whenever they eventually lose a game, it's not that big of a deal. And when you have 82 game season, the key is not to fall into a slump and fall into bad habits, and you need to stay healthy here. But you mentioned, Mike, that the game, what is it, on Friday night, is in the NBA Cup. Now, we were done a solid here in group play. The Celtics lost last night. And
Yeah.
how did we get that draw? That's terrible. Are you a fan of the NBA Cup?
Yeah, why not? It does. I mean, it doesn't hurt the game at all. Like, they're gonna play these games anyways, and why not have a mini tournament just to see? It doesn't mean anything. I guess I still remember the Lakers won it last year, so
Okay.
I guess
So it was memorable to you.
yeah.
And, it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It's not prestigious. There's like in-season competitions in European football, and
Yeah.
some of them are more prestigious than others. But this doesn't carry that same kind of weight. It's just not at this point, and I don't know if you're going to get to that or not. My biggest complaint or beef is twofold. One, I hate the courts. It hurts.
Oh, really?
My eyes. It hurts my eyes to look at the court.
I love the courts. I am completely opposite. Do something different. Like, I love the college courts when they first started making the different designs, like into the woods up at, what was it, Oregon, I think.
Oh, that was horrific. I couldn't
Oh.
watch the games. It was
I
horrible.
love it. I love it. They need to do more of that. And so now you have the NBA Cup with these awesome neon colored courts. Yes, that's my favorite part of the NBA Cup.
Okay. All right. So if we wanted to make it more interesting, though, I thought not just you get a stupid trophy.
Yeah.
And the guys get some money. That's great. Good for the guys who don't make a lot. They get a little extra cash. Cash is king, right?
Yep.
But what if you make it a little higher stakes? What if you make the team that wins the play-in tournament, they automatically receive a spot as no worse than a play-in team in the playoffs? So they could be the crap team in the NBA, yet they're like, hey, I am going to go all out, because if I can at least do this, I guarantee we've got a chance to be in the playoffs. Whereas other teams are going to be like, yeah, I don't care much. Whatever. It's one game. Woohoo. If I lose, I lose. What do you think?
So I wonder what the second and third order effects of that be. Because if you have a team that, like you said, is automatically guaranteed a spot, and say they just have injuries and a crappy second half of the season and end up, out of the playoffs. Well, which team does it screw that would have been that number 10 seed or whatever for the play-ins? They have a legit beef then too, because they played hard all season, did it the right way, and now they get punished. Just because they didn't
they should have played harder.
I know, to win the NBA Cup.
Played harder, and it really puts you're like, oh, wait a second. We really got to bust our butts here. I mean, I don't know how often it would happen, but it certainly would be interesting. I might find that more intriguing about the whole thing if there was a little bit higher stakes to it.
See, my thought was that the winning team gets to design the worst team in the NBA Cup's court for next year. They get to design it however they want. They can, put little poop emojis on the court. They can, whatever, go free, But
I like
but
that.
so you I guess that incentivizes you not to finish last, first of all.
Right.
But then you really do get some bragging points for being, number one, because
and you have to wear that badge. You have to wear that badge of disgrace the next season when the NBA Cup comes around. I like it.
Yeah. So instead of the carrot, instead of something good, it's more of the stick. Like, just avoid something bad that's going to happen to you.
Hey, I like high fiber. I like high fiber here. Don't you're talking about sticks. Adrian Peterson will come and get himself in trouble. Hey-oh. Okay. So just real quick. So the Cavs, what are we doing right now? We're hanging on, or late in the third, still up by a few. But Guardians news Mike, there hasn't been a lot of it, but we've got award winners. Did you see the finalists for the AL Manager of the Year? Isn't it funny? The 3 managers are, from the AL Central, the sad AL Central. Vogt, Hinch, and Cotraro. I don't know if it spell checked me there or did some
Nope.
autocorrect.
You're good, Cotraro. Yep.
Okay. I mean, that's incredible to see what they did, the AL Central was, and how well it turned out at the end of the season, even though ultimately, the Yankees ended up in the World Series out of the AL. The AL Central was expected to be terrible, basically.
Yeah. And what a surprise. They had 3 teams in the playoffs and they all went to the second round.
Yeah, it was really amazing what they were able to accomplish. And then look at this once again, the AL Cy Young finalists, Skubal, Lugo, and Clase. Oh, what's that? Oh, they're all in the AL Central.
Yeah.
It's unreal. But did you see the best news of all today?
What's that?
Carl Willis is returning.
Oh, no, I did not see that.
And is that not the best news?
Yeah.
Of the entire offseason already for the Guardians?
Let the Cleveland pitching factory continue.
Exactly. So I am pretty impressed with that. And I mean, it's just amazing what they've been able to do. Gold gloves, etc.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be more to come. I think you've got some notes here on that. What are we looking at?
And then you have Ramirez won his 5th Silver Slugger award in his career. So that just came out. Unfortunately, Josh Naylor did not win, but he was a finalist for it as well, as he should be. So, yeah, impressive haul already in the offseason with a couple of more awards to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly you feel like there is some promise there for the Guardians, and I am hopeful that they invest invest in the team, to build them up, to strengthen their pitching and what they need to do going into next season. So I don't know, Mike. I mean, do you have? We've seen the Browns where every other year they have a good year, we have high expectations, they suck. We have low expectations, they're good. They basically mess us up. I think the Guardians are going to be able to set things straight in terms of their pitching rotation and be able to add another bat.
Well, I will say, I mean, they've been the youngest team in the majors for the past 3 years, I think, and they're still next year probably gonna be the youngest team. That can go, one of 2 ways. One, they're too young to know that they should be bad, so they actually are good. I think that's what happened this year. Or 2, they're so young that they don't know to handle winning and they kind of regress back to the mean. I hope it's the latter. A lot of that's gonna have to do with coaching, I think, and how they approach the game. And number 2, though, they have a really strong farm system too. I mean, we had the number 1 pick last year too, to add to the team that was, second in the American League this year.
Yep.
And they have some, some fielders like DeLauder coming up, Manzardo. They've got some younger guys coming up to this. They have a really strong farm system. I'd be curious to see. I have to look it up for next week how they're ranked. But it's all trending upwards, and there's no promises in this game. Like you said, we thought they should have been good in 22, and they were not. We didn't think they were going to be good last year, and they were. So we think they're going to be good next year. Anything can happen, but just looking at it on paper, yeah, they should be good, and they are built to be good. To have a window of being good too. Like this is their window now because their players are still so young and under team control.
Yes, if they can manage to keep that, do like we saw in the mid 90s in terms of having that core group of players and then adding pieces and parts, that's going to be the key right there. But again, I feel like there's going to come a point where, guys are going to have, the ownership is going to need to, spend a little bit to keep some of these guys. Don't just let them walk. Don't just let them walk. That is the most disappointing thing. More time, we get ticked with the Browns when they pay a guy for that extra season and they suck. But it seems like the Guardians let guys go because they don't or can't pay them, and then they go and they still are successful elsewhere. It's not, not all things are equal there. But I'm definitely already looking forward to not going to look past enjoying the Cavs season, but I am definitely looking forward to next baseball season. Have a lot of renewed hope after this past year. And, we're not going to get in too much, but things are heating up in the college football arena. The college football playoff rankings have come out. Buckeyes remain at number 2. And if anything, if it goes as we see it, they're going to have a very important matchup with Indiana next week. They've got to get by Northwestern this week. And setting up, as long as they don't screw it up, they should be setting up for a rematch with Oregon in the Big Ten championship, and we shall see how that goes. I don't know. Just a quick question. I mean, what do you think? Are you excited about the expanded college football playoff, or not so much?
Yeah, no, I am. I think they should have done this a long time ago. It actually allows a lot more deserving teams to at least see if they have a chance, and it allows for some of the I would love to have seen some of the mid-major teams of the past actually compete in you would see a number 12 team be a mid-major go in. So I am excited about that. I am not excited about the conference realignment though. And there's really just two big leagues right now, two big conferences, which I think takes the fun out of it. But it is offset by knowing that there'll be 12 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, with all the good, it's like you get it on both sides there, but I'm certainly been enjoying the football season other than Gus Johnson because he sucks. And we're gonna have at least 2 more crappy Gus Johnson games against Indiana and then against Michigan. And well, yeah, that just stinks. So with that, Mike, do you want to tell us all what has you going nuclear this week?
Well, I'm actually I had something lined up, but I'm going to go the opposite. And I don't know what non-nuclear is, but I'm following the score here of Kent State versus number 5 Auburn. And they were down by 20 to really start the game. Got off to a really poor start, but it is 40-35 right now. They have fought back, and they are only 5 points down to the number 5 team in the country on the road. So you never know. So I'm going non-nuclear, and I am happy that the Kent State Golden Flashes.
Are you going wind powered? Maybe
I'm going wind powered off the cuff because I just I've been following this score and I wanted to make sure we get a shout out to them.
Absolutely, Mike. No, I'm 100% in on that. I love the fact that Senderhoff got this game with some big time schools. Like you mentioned, we talked about earlier before the show, they got a matchup. They got Alabama coming up too. I love the fact that they are challenging themselves early in the season. Gosh, I hope they can make a run this year. I thought that we were going to be screwed after last season. Saw some guys, checking out the transfer portal in Von Cameron Davis and then Jalen Sullinger. Ultimately, they both come back and make their way. The way that Sullinger ended up coming back a little bit different, but the fact that both of them are back and they've added some pieces in the transfer portal. Man, would love to see nothing more than Kent State make it to the, win the MAC, make the NCAA tournament, and maybe give us a win. Just give us a little bit of fun out there. It's so awesome when they've made it, and I'm glad that we got to be a part of seeing it the first time, and you got to be there in person.
That's right. Yeah,
that is amazing. So, Mike, what has me going nuclear is when companies, businesses don't stand by their products and common sense doesn't prevail. And when I say this, I'm speaking of the fact that my wife has driven a stick shift vehicle for, gosh knows, 20 plus years. And her 2017 vehicle that she bought brand new 2 years ago with 28,000 miles, the clutch went out. She had to replace the clutch. We fought the extended warranty, however, had expired. We fought with the manufacturer. The dealership was of little to no help. And they ultimately did split the cost 60-40. It's been 2 years. My wife has driven her car less than 9,000 miles, and the clutch is burnt out. So now I'm calling the dealership and they say, oh, well, it's 12 months or 12,000 miles. I said, that's ridiculous. We take it to a shop, and obviously it's not their call on whatever. I mean, they just tell us what it is because I'm not taking it to the dealership at this point because they suck and won't do anything for us. I call the manufacturer. I say, this is garbage. Well, you do not have an extended warranty and it is expired. And this was this and this was this. No, don't tell me what I already know. Do something. This is a garbage product, friends. You can't do this to consumers. You want me to tell everybody how bad you are and how bad your products are and how poorly you take care of customers? Because I will do it. And I can be loud and obnoxious on social media. Believe me, this is garbage. The same stupid manufacturer had to settle a class action lawsuit because of problems, a defect in the design or manufacture of their automatic transmission. So clearly they're morons and suck.
Do you want to tell us who it is now, just to get the word out so we know not to buy this product?
Do not buy a flippin' Nissan. It's kind of like when you go to and maybe you get a great car and it lasts forever, but this is horse crap. How in the world, less than 10,000 miles, less than 9,000 miles in 2 years, and the clutch is worn out, is burnt out? You got to be kidding me. There is a design flaw. There is a problem here, folks. This is not a person who's never driven a stick shift before. Someone who's driven a stick shift for 20 plus years, had a Ford for 14, 15 years, stick shift, never had to replace the clutch. So I'm going to have to say that there's something wrong with the vehicle design and the fact that they will not stand behind their product, and I have to fight with them. That is what has me going nuCLEar, Mike.
Well said. And I will not be buying a Nissan anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to make repairs in other cars. I had to, my car, the BMW, some stupid thing went out, $4,000. Okay, that sucked. But these things happen. But this kind of thing, you got to be kidding me. I don't even know what to say, Mike, but I hope that you can heed my warning and not buy a Nissan in the future, knowing that they will try to screw you.
Well said.
And that's all I have. So, Mike, if you've got nothing else, I think I've said enough here. And
I'm good.
All right, my friend. Well, hopefully the cadavers can hang on here tonight, and I have not jinxed them. We are in the fourth quarter, 92-85. Let's go Cavs. And man, wouldn't it be nice to see if Kent State can just pull one out of their hat? Oh, and I take that back. I do have one more thing that I have to mention. Do you watch a lot of college basketball, Mike?
Not yet. I will get into it as the year goes on, though.
Well, when you watch Duke, you're going to be excited to hear them pronounce the name of one player, and it's just unfortunate. His name is Khan. Get this. The name is spelled Kneuppel. You know how it's pronounced?
How is it pronounced?
Knipple.
This is you wanting to be a sports broadcaster so bad so you can say that name, isn't it?
I listened to Jay Billis say that name I don't know how many times last night. I said, did he say what I thought he said? Knipple. and to give credit to my wife, she did say, oh, could you see that person growing up? Hey, here's a Knipple. Oh boy. And so with that, folks, I will bid you adieu. So Mike, thank you very much as always. And so for Mike Rasinski, I am Ethan Greenberg, and you've been watching Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.